On February 2026, the United States and Israel launched Operation Epic Fury. Over the course of a few days, a combined force executed more than 6,000 precision strikes across Iranian territory. The operational outcome was total. The strikes destroyed over 60 Iranian ships and eliminated the state's highest political and military leadership. This split screen tracks the aftermath. On the left, a counter records successful strikes. On the right, global oil prices climb past $101 per barrel. This reflects reality. Commercial traffic through the Strait of Hormuz plummeted 80%, removing a fifth of global oil. Operation Epic Fury demonstrates the reality of modern warfare. It is a collision between high-fidelity military kill chains and the vulnerability of asymmetric global economic choke points. Dismantling a nation's military apparatus achieves tactical dominance, but it fails to strip that nation of its capacity to hold a highly interconnected global economy hostage. To understand the speed of this campaign, we look to the naval principle of firing effectively first. In an age of high-speed missiles, victory goes to the side that can land the first successful salvo and sustain it. Modern joint maritime campaigns prioritize the destruction of the adversary's C-5 ISRT complex, the integrated system of command, control, and intelligence that makes firing possible. The coalition executed this in 4 phases. Phase 1 began years before the conflict. Planners conducted exhaustive target systems analysis, building strike folders that allowed for immediate execution the moment the order was given. In Phase 2, forces converged kinetic and non-kinetic fires. They suppressed radars, degraded networks, and confused command nodes to open clear strike corridors for Tomahawk missiles and carrier aviation. Phase 3 moved from sensors to infrastructure. Strikes methodically dismantled the facilities required to generate combat power, targeting piers, dry docks, and munition storage sites. This satellite imagery shows the military-industrial complex in the Iranian desert. Within the Shahroud and Parchin facilities, precision strikes targeted planetary mixers, equipment required to produce solid fuel. The geographically separated production halls were systematically targeted to halt missile component production. Finally, in Phase 4, continuous battle damage assessment drove dynamic targeting. As surviving naval assets attempted to disperse from port, persistent surveillance allowed strike groups to locate and destroy them before they could engage. These pulsed operations neutralized the conventional military threat. However, they did not resolve the primary cause of the war, the status of the nuclear program. On March 1st, a targeted strike eliminated Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei before he reached a hardened bunker. The loss immediately severed the chain of command. Retaliation came through the digital domain. State-sponsored advanced persistent threats launched destructive hack-and-leak operations against Western energy corporations and healthcare networks. This response was enabled by Russian intelligence. Access to the Khayyam satellite network delivered the precision targeting data necessary for Iranian drones to strike coalition facilities in the region. China maintained a strategy of hedging. While publicly criticizing the strikes, Beijing supplied the Iranian military with Beidou 3 navigation access and anti-stealth radar systems, altering the electronic battlefield. Under the strike's pressure, Iran's security apparatus fractured. Tension reached a breaking point between the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and the Artesh. The IRGC began hoarding critical technical components and medical supplies, leaving the regular military to face supply shortages of food and ammunition. Removing a head of state and degrading conventional forces does not guarantee compliance. Instead, it forces the surviving elements of a regime to rely on their most extreme deterrents for survival. At the start of the conflict, Iran possessed approximately 440 kilograms of highly enriched uranium, processed to a purity of 60%. Bombing facilities like Natanz or Isfahan does not physically eliminate the nuclear threat. Kinetic force cannot destroy the progress already achieved in the enrichment process. This curve plots separative work units, or SW, the effort required to enrich uranium. The nonlinear relationship means the hardest work happens early. Iran expended over 55,000 SW to reach 60% enrichment. Reaching the 90% weapons-grade threshold requires barely 500 SW. This material is stored as uranium hexafluoride gas in metal canisters, housed deep within fortified subterranean tunnel complexes. The deployment of special forces to physically extract 440 kilograms of material from these deep tunnel sites while under fire is a military and logistical impossibility. Kinetic destruction delays the timeline, but it cannot erase the physics of the separative work already performed. The ultimate proliferation threat remains. With its navy destroyed, Iran pivoted to asymmetric area denial. It deployed naval mines and unmanned surface vessels to cut off Strait of Hormuz shipping. They enforced this through exit targeting. Commercial vessels safely loaded oil at Gulf ports, but were systematically attacked during their outbound transit through the strait. By proving that no loaded tanker could safely leave the Gulf, the regime created a climate of extreme risk. Insurers responded by canceling policies, achieving a blockade without a continuous military presence. The shock was instantaneous. The global market lost 8 million barrels of crude oil per day, and Qatar's essential liquefied natural gas exports were halted. Emergency production measures were unable to compensate for the loss. The global market lacked the spare capacity to absorb a disruption of this scale. When OPEC countries met to increase production, their adjustment of 206,000 barrels per day failed to bridge the gap of the millions of barrels lost to the blockade. A low-tech, asymmetric blockade effectively neutralized the benefits of a high-tech kinetic victory. The loss of the supreme leader created a vacuum, dissolving the theocratic clerical hierarchy. The internal hierarchy has consolidated into a hardened military autocracy, managed solely by the surviving elements of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. This reorganized state is unbound by clerical consensus. It operates with a focus on military survival and a reliance on achieving a nuclear deterrent to prevent future attacks. These events provide a template for future conflicts in the Pacific, offering a warning to strategists in Washington, Beijing, and Taiwan. Tactical success against a fleet or a runway does not resolve the broader strategic conflict. Kinetic dominance lacks the leverage to stabilize a globalized trade network. If an adversary can successfully displace their denial tool, depends on two conditions: absolute control of the physical battlefield and the ability to endure the resulting macroeconomic shock.